What's up everyone on the internet? Thank you for making this video part today. I am so excited to upload this one for you guys because this video we're diving back into the Castlevania franchise with Castlevania Nocturne. So for those of you who may be new to this channel, I am a huge Castlevania fan to the point where I would say that this is probably the best show on Netflix in general. And I know those may be some fighting words, but the fact that this show was able to tell such a compelling philosophical story about how power and corruption are such infectious diseases, and you apply that to a Dracula story and mix in with some political power, woof, that is a hell of a story. So when I heard that they were going to do a spin-off series, I was fully on board, and now that I think about it, this feels more like a sequel series rather than a spin-off because we're continuing the legacy of the Belmonts with Richter Belmont now. Now, just to be clear, this franchise has always been inspired by the games, which I have never played before, so forgive me for my lack of knowledge on some things, but the only thing I did take away from the games was that the music was always fantastic. More on that later. But anyway, going into this series, it should be noted that Castlevania Nocturne takes place hundreds of years after the events of the last season of Castlevania, which was set around the 1470s, and now we're jumping into the French Revolution, so it's been about 300 years since we last saw our favorite characters, so don't expect to see anyone from the last series because they're probably dead by now. With that being said, the story follows Richter Belmont, who is the descendant of Trevor Belmont, and one of the things that I really loved about this show was how he was both very different and very similar to Trevor, because from the get-go, this kid sort of starts his Bruce Wayne Batman story after watching his mother get brutally killed by a vampire. And I compare him to Bruce Wayne because after watching his mother get murdered right in front of his eyes, whatever innocence was in those eyes was gone in an instant and was then replaced with anger and hatred, as this kid later on grows up to be a lean, mean vampire killing machine. As opposed to Trevor, who was introduced to this series as a lucky drunk carrying a whip before showing us that he really is a stone cold vampire killer. Now, while this show introduces us to a completely different kind of Belmont, one of the things that makes Richter similar to Trevor is the fact that they both find joy in doing what they do, which is killing vampires. And this not necessarily lightens the mood, but shows us that these characters are in fact human and are capable of other emotions, more specifically being humorous when need be, in a franchise that is both dark and vicious. Now, I mentioned how one of the things that I took away from the games was the music, and after learning that the first series introduced me to Bloody Tears, this show right here introduced me to Divine Bloodline, and holy crap, listening to Richter's theme play in the background really elevates the scene, much like in Season 2 of Castlevania when Trevor and his friends were storming Dracula's castle while Bloody Tears was playing. And speaking of music, I think that Castlevania Nocturne may be the most musical addition in this franchise. And what I mean by that is, no, this is not a musical. There are no moments where we see our characters sing and dance like in a Disney movie. But I will say, one character in particular really does bring the music to a whole new level. And without giving away spoilers, the character Edouard, who was an opera singer from the Caribbean, and very rare do we see opera play a role in modern storytelling, much less in animation, but oh my god, hearing Edouard sing, his voice is angelic. Side note, I have a huge appreciation for opera because the amount of talent it takes to sing such beautiful harmonic tones is unbelievable. Again, without giving any spoilers, there's a moment where we hear this character sing while a huge fight is going on, and it took me back all the way to the Star Wars prequels because whether you like it or not, the prequels had such epic music as you would hear these big choirs play in the background while fights were going on, and it sort of reminded me about that. So yeah, I really love the music. Now with that being said, because this is a Castlevania show, we gotta talk about the vampires, given how this franchise has made them just as important to our human characters. And that was one of the things that I really loved about the first series, because while we would focus on Trevor and his friends, the show would also cut back to the vampires and remind us just how cruel and conniving these vampires really are. Now in the first series, we saw just how power-hungry vampires really are, as they would always try to outsmart one another and gain the upper hand. But in this show, it actually seems like the vampires have rallied behind this vampire messiah who hangs her presence over the entire story. And while this may seem similar to like how the vampires ride behind Dracula, we gotta remember that While there were loyal followers, there were other vampires conspiring against him, as opposed to this show where everyone has fallen in line. And that was what was kind of strange to me, because I'm used to seeing vampires climb over one another for power. So while it was a bit off-putting that we didn't see any conspiring amongst the vampires, I got a feeling that we're going to see that return in future installments of this franchise. Speaking of corruption, one of the other things that made Castlevania such a compelling story was how they depicted the church as a corrupt power symbol that relied on fear-mongering, because it was the church who killed Dracula's human wife, kickstarting a war against humanity. And this show does that aspect justice, as we see how the church views the French Revolution and the lengths they're willing to go in order to achieve peace in France. And it really does show you that even men of God are capable of committing terrible acts in order to achieve political goals. So while the vampire power play may have been suddenly downplayed, still, the human corruption, the music, and the legacy of the Belmonts makes this show a worthy addition to the Castlevania franchise. And the best part about this entry is that you don't have to watch the original Castlevania to get invested in the story, as we are now dealing with new characters in a new setting. So if you're looking for something to binge through on Netflix, but you haven't watched the original Castlevania, you can still jump into this show and enjoy the story without ever getting lost. And with only 8 episodes, this show is super easy to binge through. Well, that's going to do it for this video, guys. That was my overall view on Castlevania Nocturne. If you like what you saw, hit the subscribe button so you always updates from this channel. I'll see you next time with a brand new video. Bye-bye.